Today we're going to be shooting the Ruger Blackhawk, and this is why I love 45 long Colt. That feels. Right before the end of World War II, Colt stopped making their single action revolvers. And so Ruger picked up the banner and in 1955 put out their first Ruger Blackhawk. It was in .357 Magnum. Then of course in the years following they introduced quite a few other single action Blackhawks and then went on to their Super Blackhawk. But the Ruger Blackhawk has always had a special place for me because I really like the old single action revolvers, and especially the spirit of the Old West. It was independent, it was fierce, and it was self-reliance. It reminds me of when America was a much younger nation and really more resolved to stand for liberty and freedom. The Ruger Blackhawk has been made since 1955. There have been a number of changes. There are a number of calibers, a number of barrel lengths, even blued and stainless versions. And this pistol is just as popular as it ever has been. A lot of that has to do with the cowboy action shooting that goes on around the country. You know, Colt had ended their production of their single action revolvers right before World War II. So after World War II, with a lot of the old westerns becoming really popular, Bill Ruger's first model was the Single 6, and then began to make the Blackhawk in 1955 until present. And the Ruger Blackhawk has been a hugely popular single action pistol for a number of years. Now Colt did get back in the game making single action revolvers in 1956, taking a break since 1941. And really this was due to Ruger's introduction of the Blackhawk. Colt has continued to make single action revolvers somewhat sporadically here and there with a second and third generation, but the Colt revolver is a very refined collectible piece, very expensive. The one thing great about Ruger, it's built like a tank and it takes a lot of abuse, but it's still a high quality piece. But one of the big changes that Ruger did over the Colt model was he used coil springs instead of leaf springs that were used in the Colts. And the coil springs lasted a lot longer. So you have a more durable gun that will last much longer than the original Colts. Of course, this gun is unloaded, and we have 6 rounds here on the table, and this is the 45 long Colt. Very reminiscent of the 45 ACP, which it should be because it's the predecessor, and actually the 45 ACP was designed around the same ballistics as the 45 long Colt. Now I'm really partial to the 45 long Colt, and the main reason is because that was the ancestor to the 45 ACP. In fact, you can get this same Blackhawk pistol in a 45 ACP 45 long Colt conversion, so you can have 2 different cylinders to be able to shoot both type rounds, which really makes it a sweet package. But the recoil on the 45 long Colt reminds me of firing my 1911. Don't know why, just the way the 45 moves, the recoil, and I love shooting 45. It's a heavyweight bullet, moving slow but sure. It's a very simple design, but it's also a very strong action. And many times if you're seeing some really hot 45 long Colt loads, it'll specify that it's for Blackhawk only, which really gives credence to the durability of the single action Blackhawk. No wonder they called it the Wild West. Look at those bullets. Now from 55 to 62, these were considered the flat top. The top strap was really flat, and it did have adjustable sights, but they were vulnerable to being damaged. So Ruger obviously changed this, and this is the new model Blackhawk, which gives this lift here to protect the rear sight. It has a really nice front post that stands out, a really good contrast, especially in sunlight, with this black sight. These are very easy to pick up, and the Blackhawk is really very accurate. But check out those big circles right here on this steel target. This is what I love. Not to mention this big fat 45 slug that's left over. Now from 62 to 72 there was the 3 screw, and you'll know that by seeing 3 separate screws here in the steel frame. But the new model Blackhawks have 2 screws. The 3 screw model is very collectible. So in 1973 the new model was introduced and is still being made even today. One of the big things though about the new model, which is one of the reasons why I really enjoy shooting the new model, is that in the old Colts you had to half cock to get the cylinder to turn. So you'd open the loading gate, you'd have to have a half cock, and then you could rotate the cylinder. Well, as you can imagine, if your finger slipped, that could be very catastrophic. What Ruger did was completely separate this mechanism. So you can open the loading gate and you can turn the cylinder on its own without even touching the hammer. But the old Colts and the early Rugers, you were not able to carry 6 rounds in the cylinder without a chance of dropping the gun and the hammer igniting the round. One thing that Ruger designed was the transfer bar, and as you can see, as the hammer's pulled back, there is a bar that comes up and blocks the firing pin. And this allows you to carry this gun with 6 in the chamber. Of course, the way you load this pistol is right here through the loading gate. And the round just drops right down into the cylinder, and then you turn for your next one and you load it. To unload, you have an ejector rod here that actually, this rod will actually push the spent shell, and you can see the rod coming through the cylinder. Of course, the barrel, the cylinder, and the frame are all steel. But on the regular Blackhawks, your grip and your trigger guard and also your ejector rod housing is an aluminum alloy. On the Super Blackhawks, they have the same frame itself in the top, but the grip is larger and it's in steel. Most of your typical new Blackhawks come with a hard rubber black grip now. These are the old maple grips. I really love the look and the contrast between the two. But to be honest with you, the hard rubber grips really look nice with the pistol. Now the grips can be replaced with a number of different type aftermarket grips. There's some that are Stag, of course. There's some that are some of the fancier micarta or different type grips. You can put rubberized grips such as Pachmayrs or Hogues. I personally like the old Ruger grips. They ride nice, they're very comfortable. This gun is just very ergonomic. It was made that way in the Old West, and it really shoots like a dream. And the weight on the 4 5/8 inch is about 36 ounces, and of course it goes up from there with your added barrel length. While it is hefty, you're going to appreciate the weight, especially when you're firing heavy calibers, especially with hot loads. As expected, this is very simple to break down. Really all you're going to do is remove the cylinder for field strip. And you take the base pin latch, you push it down, and you pull out the base pin. And this goes through the cylinder. And once you pull that out, just open your loading gate and your cylinder will come right out. That way you can clean it, and it keeps the inside clean as well. And to reassemble, you just return it and then close your loading gate and then just bring the base pin latch, pushing it in. There you go, back in business. There are a couple of other models. The Vaquero, which is more like the old single action Colt with the sights, has a fixed sight in the back. And then there's the Beasley model, which has more of a different style grip, and it was the old Colt target grip. So the Beasley grip is in that same style. And then of course you have your Super Blackhawk that we've talked about for your more magnum calibers. It does come in a number of barrel lengths. This is 4 5/8 inch, which is my preference for this pistol. But if I was going to shoot a little bit longer ranges, I'd probably go with a 7.5 inch. It does come in a 5.5 and a 6.5 inch barrel. Now, if you want to check out all the different calibers, you can go to Ruger and look at their list. They've got a really extensive list of the different barrel sizes. One of the things I do want to mention are the convertibles, and you can get different models that have 2 cylinders. One for like this one would have a 45 long Colt and a 45 ACP cylinder that would just switch out. You know, in a world of high speed, high cap, polymer framed wonder pistols and semi-automatic, it's nice once in a while to pull out the old single action revolver and just really remember the joy of shooting each and every round. Sometimes in a fast-paced world, it's good to slow things down a bit. Plus, I get to wear my old cowboy hat. And that's about the only time you're going to see me wearing any kind of hat like that. The Ruger Single Action Blackhawk. An excellent pistol, a lot of fun, and a great companion to have by your side. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. I do, ma'am. Much obliged. Kind of brings the pure joy back into just firing off a few rounds. And with today's ammo scarcity, a few rounds is about all you can afford to shoot. Oops, I got my glasses. And no, I'm not going to be wearing this hat in every video.